I never thought loneliness could make a house echo like that. Every clock ticked louder, every floorboard sighed deeper, as if my old home knew I was its only heartbeat left. After my husband, Frank, passed, the walls began to shrink around me. My hands trembled too much to make tea, and sometimes I'd forget what day it was. That's when my niece, Clara, suggested hiring help. "Just someone to keep you company, Aunt Marjorie," she said. "You deserve comfort." Her name was Ivy. Young, soft-spoken, always with a warm smile that never quite reached her eyes. She came in with lilac perfume and a promise, "I'll take care of you like my own grandmother." Those words hooked straight into my heart. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe someone still cared enough to see me. At first, Ivy was a blessing. She'd brush my hair, hum old songs while sweeping, make my breakfast just the way Frank used to. She called me Miss Margie, like I was delicate porcelain that needed to be handled gently. I remember one morning rain tapping softly against the window. She placed a cup of chamomile tea beside me and said, "You should talk more about your life, Miss Margie. People would love to hear your stories." I chuckled, thinking she was just being polite, but her eyes lingered too long, curious, calculating. She began asking strange questions. How I met Frank, what our hardest years were, when my depression started after his death. It felt almost kind at first, like therapy, but sometimes I'd catch her holding her phone oddly, screen faced toward me, camera, light off. She'd say she was checking messages. I brushed it off. After all, who would imagine their caretaker was turning their grief into a show? Weeks passed, and Ivy's presence grew both comforting and invasive. She rearranged my house for efficiency, moved my photo albums, and set up a new lamp in every room, saying it made things brighter for safety. But one night, as I shuffled to the kitchen for water, I noticed the faint red dot of a camera reflection in the lamp's glass. My stomach twisted. I turned the lamp over the next morning. It was hollowed out, with a small lens tucked inside. Ivy laughed when I confronted her. "Oh, that's just a motion sensor for your safety," she said sweetly. "You wouldn't want to fall again, right?" Her tone was gentle, but her eyes dared me to argue, and I didn't. I told myself she was right, that I was being paranoid. Old age does that. At least, that's what I kept whispering to myself, to quiet the unease that sat in my chest like a stone. Then came the night I broke. I don't even remember what started it, perhaps the way the lights flickered, or how Ivy's voice suddenly echoed from another room. My heart pounded, breath short, and I collapsed in the hallway, sobbing, thinking Frank was calling my name. Ivy rushed over, cradled me, whispered, "It's okay. I'm here." But as she pulled me close, I saw her phone glinting in her hand, pointed toward my face. The next morning she acted like nothing happened, but I couldn't stop shaking. Something inside me knew she wasn't just caring for me, she was documenting me. My trembling hands, my tears, my confusion. Every fragile moment. One afternoon, when she went out for groceries, I searched her room. My heart hammered so loud I thought it would betray me. Inside her drawer were multiple phones, power banks, a notebook with scribbled timestamps, and a list titled EP10, Meltdown. Under it, words that made my blood freeze. She cries about Frank again. Great emotion. Add piano music. That was when I realized I was her content. My pain was her performance. I sat on her bed staring at those words, unable to breathe. My caretaker, the woman who fed me, bathed me, said she loved me, had been filming my breakdowns for an audience I never knew existed. I wanted to scream, to destroy every device she owned. But part of me, a quiet, terrified part, wanted to see just how far she'd gone. When she returned, I pretended nothing was wrong. I smiled. I let her serve me dinner. I thanked her for being so caring. That night, I stayed awake, listening to her hum through the walls, hearing faint notifications buzz from her room. I wondered if someone, somewhere, was watching me live. Days later, Clara visited. I almost told her everything, but when she hugged Ivy and said, "You're such a blessing for Aunt Marjorie," my courage died. What if they both thought I was losing my mind? I'd been forgetful lately. Everyone already treated me like glass about to crack. So I stayed silent until I couldn't anymore. It was a Tuesday when everything shattered. Ivy told me we'd do a memory game for a therapy. She set her phone on the table, facing me, saying it was to play music. But as I spoke about Frank's last days, the hospital beeps. The way his hand went limp in mine, I saw the faint reflection of my face on the black screen. Recording. Always recording. I stopped mid-sentence and whispered, "You're filming me again, aren't you?" Her eyes widened, but only for a second. Then she smiled that eerie, careful smile. "Of course not, Miss Margie. You're just tired. Why don't you rest?" That's when something inside me snapped. I grabbed the phone before she could stop me. The screen was already streaming, live. Comments rolled in hearts, laughing emojis, words that blurred together. "Poor thing. This one's so real. What a great actress." My vision tunneled. My caretaker had an audience. Thousands of them, I screamed. I threw the phone. It shattered against the wall. And Ivy's face changed. No more sweetness, no more pity, just cold rage. "You had no right," she hissed. "Do you know how hard I've worked to build this channel? People love you, Margie. You're the reason they watch." I stumbled back, trembling. "You used me," I whispered. "You filmed me crying, breaking, grieving." She tilted her head. "I gave your life meaning again." Those words cut deeper than any knife could. That night, I locked myself in my room, every lamp unplugged, every window closed. But I could still feel her cameras watching, even when they weren't there. I didn't sleep. I waited for the morning, waited for a plan to form, because I wasn't going to be her victim anymore. The morning light felt cruel. It poured through my curtains like a spotlight I didn't ask for, exposing every wrinkle, every fear that had settled into my skin. I sat in my armchair, still wearing last night's robe, staring at the shards of Ivy's phone that I'd swept into a neat little pile on the kitchen counter. They glittered like broken trust. She hadn't said a word to me since the incident, not one, but she hadn't left either. I could hear her footsteps moving through the house that morning, calm, steady, purposeful. The way a predator circles when it knows its prey is cornered. I made my tea with trembling hands, My reflection in the kettle looked ghostly. I thought of Frank again, how he always said, "Never let anyone make you feel small in your own home, Margie." I whispered those words under my breath like a prayer, because Ivy had made me feel smaller than I'd ever been. Around noon, she finally appeared, leaning on the kitchen doorway like she owned the place. Her tone was oddly casual. "I think we should both calm down," she said, brushing invisible lint off her sleeve. "What happened yesterday? Let's not make it bigger than it is." "Bigger than it is?" My voice cracked. "You filmed me crying over my dead husband. You made money from it." Her expression didn't change. "It's not like that. People empathize with you. You're inspiring, Margie. They see your pain, your strength." Strength. She said it like it was a brand. I realized then that Ivy didn't see me as a person just as content. I was her project, her storyline, her ratings booster. I wanted to throw her out that moment, but fear clung to me like a second skin. She knew everything about me, my medications, my passwords, my family contacts. She could twist anything I said into a symptom of confusion or delusion. And with her careful tone and sweet face, who would they believe? The frail widow or the devoted caretaker? So I played along. I pretended to forgive her. I apologized even. I said I'd overreacted. The look of relief on her face was almost insulting. She smiled again too easily, and I knew I'd done the right thing by pretending, because to fight Ivy, I had to become invisible. That evening, she made stew. She hummed like she used to, and for a fleeting moment, I almost believed we'd gone back to normal. But then I noticed she'd placed her new phone, oh yes, she had plenty face down on the table near me, still angled perfectly. I wondered how many times she'd replaced her tools of betrayal, how many lenses had watched me without blinking. When she went to bed, I didn't sleep. I went to the living room, pulled out my old laptop from the drawer, and opened the internet. My hands shook as I typed her name. Ivy Moore Caregiver Vlogs. It was all there. Her smiling thumbnails, her sympathetic voiceovers, titles like "Elderly Widow Learns to Smile Again After Tragedy." My sweet patient talks about losing her husband. So emotional. She thinks he's still alive. Each video had hundreds of thousands of views. My face was there, my face pale, tear-streaked, lost. The comments gushed over her kindness, her beautiful work. And there I was, the star of a tragedy I didn't consent to. My pain, immortalized for strangers to share and react to between their dinner and bedtime scrolling. I couldn't breathe. My throat burned as I watched one of the clips me sitting by the window, staring at Frank's photograph, whispering, "I miss you." The camera had zoomed in on my shaking hands. Ivy's voice narrated softly over it. She still talks to him every night. Sometimes she forgets he's gone. It breaks my heart. Breaks her heart? It made her rich. I slammed the laptop shut and wept until dawn. The next day, I knew what I had to do. I called my niece, Clara. My voice trembled, but I tried to sound composed. "Sweetheart, can you come visit soon? I've been feeling uneasy." She promised to stop by that weekend. I didn't tell her why over the phone. I knew Ivy listened, That week was hell. Ivy's kindness returned in full force, but now it had teeth. She made me breakfast in bed, complimented my dress, told me I looked radiant, but her eyes kept flicking toward my reactions, as if she was watching for emotional cues, like a director behind the camera. I noticed new lamps again, one in the hallway, one in the bathroom. I unplugged them all, feigning clumsiness. I tripped over the cord, I'd say, or the light's too harsh. She'd smile tightly and replace them later when I napped. By Thursday, she started locking her room. On Friday night, I heard voices, muffled but unmistakable. I crept down the hall, slippers silent against the wooden floor, and peeked through her door crack. She was live again. Her ring light illuminated the room, soft pink glow on her perfect skin. "Hey, guys," she cooed into the camera. "Tonight's update, Miss Margie's been struggling a bit. She's talking about her husband again. Please send prayers." The chat exploded with hearts and sympathy emojis. And then she turned her phone toward the hallway, right where I stood. I froze. The lens caught me half hidden in the shadows. "Oh," she gasped dramatically. "There she is. Say hi, Miss Margie." My heart pounded like thunder. I didn't move, didn't speak. I turned and walked away, refusing to give her the reaction she wanted. That night, I didn't sleep. I waited for morning. When Clara would arrive, I would finally tell someone. Finally end it. When Clara came, Ivy was sugar-sweet. "She's been doing so well lately," she said, handing her tea. "We've been documenting her recovery. It's been amazing for her mental health." I wanted to scream liar, but before I could, Clara smiled proudly at her. "That's wonderful. I've seen some of your videos. You really have a gift, Ivy." My heart dropped. Clara, my own niece, she'd seen them. She liked them. She thought they were real stories of kindness. The room spun. I sat down hard, feeling my breath catch. "You knew?" I whispered. "You watched?" Clara frowned, confused. "What's wrong, Aunt Marjorie?" "Ivy's helping you. Everyone online adores you." Ivy placed a gentle hand on my shoulder, smiling sweetly for Clara's benefit. "She gets a bit disoriented when she's tired," she said softly. "It's normal at her age." And just like that, the room turned against me. I realized no one would believe me. Not my family, not the police, not anyone who'd already seen me online, crying, shaking, muttering to ghosts. Ivy had crafted my madness too perfectly, but she underestimated one thing. I wasn't done yet. That night, when she went live again, I'd be ready. That night, I sat in the dark, heart pounding like an old clock that refused to die. The house was quiet except for the faint hum of Ivy's phone charger in the next room. My mind raced, not with fear anymore, but with something sharper. A strange, fierce calm had replaced my trembling. If Ivy thought I was weak, then that was exactly what I would let her keep believing. I had spent my entire life taking care of people, Frank, our children. My sick mother and all those years had taught me one thing. Kindness could be armor. You could hide a blade beneath it. When Ivy finally went to bed, I shuffled down the hallway, slow and steady, so the floorboards wouldn't groan. I peeked through her door again. The soft pink light from her ring lamp was still on, but she was asleep this time, her phone open on her chest. I could see the screen. Notifications, hundreds of them. Messages like, "When's the next breakdown episode?" And "We love Miss Margie. She's so real." My stomach twisted with disgust. I wanted to grab the phone, delete everything. Scream into that glowing hole of cruelty, but that wouldn't destroy her. Not yet. Not enough. I needed proof. Proof so strong even Clara couldn't deny it. The next morning, I played the perfect fool. I thanked Ivy for breakfast, smiled during her fake therapy sessions, and even let her film a short clip where I talked about recovery. I played my part so well, I almost hated how easily it came. But that afternoon, when she left for groceries, I moved fast. I unlocked her room with a bobby pin, an old trick my mother had taught me back when we still had skeleton keys. My hands were trembling but steady enough. Her laptop was on her desk, still logged in. My name stared back from her video titles, her thumbnails, her folders. There was one labeled Unedited Gold. I clicked it. There I was. Every moment of my grief, every breakdown, every trembling confession unedited, raw. There was even one video I didn't remember ever being filmed. Me asleep, murmuring Frank's name in the dark. The angle was from above, like a ceiling corner. My eyes darted to the lamps. Of course. Then another video caught my breath, titled Finale Idea. I pressed play. Ivy's face filled the screen. She was talking to the camera. "Guys," she said, "I think this season might end soon. Miss Margie's been declining. It's been emotional, but it's real. You've all supported her journey, and I want to give you something unforgettable." She smiled, almost tenderly. Maybe her goodbye. I couldn't move. My hands turned cold, my body numb. She wasn't just exploiting me, she was waiting for me to die, maybe even helping it along. That was when I noticed something strange, an email tab still open on her screen. She'd been messaging someone named Darren. The subject lines read, "Next upload, sponsorship deal, and the finale plan." My breath caught. I opened one. "I think I can get the last episode next week. She's showing signs of confusion again. If it's bad enough, I'll get emergency footage, maybe a hospital scene. Sponsors are offering double for something emotional." She trusts me completely. A wave of nausea hit me. My knees nearly gave out. I stumbled to the chair, clutching the desk for balance. She was planning to push me to drive me into another breakdown, maybe worse, and sell it. That's when I made my decision. If she wanted a finale, I'd give her one, but it wouldn't be the one she expected. I grabbed an old flash drive from my drawer, copied every file, videos, emails, everything, and hid it inside my knitting basket. Then I closed her laptop carefully, returned everything exactly how I'd found it, and went back to my room just before she returned. When she came in, smiling with her bags of groceries, I smiled too. "You're an angel, Ivy," I said softly. "I don't know what I'd do without you." Her eyes softened, clearly pleased. "You're my favorite person in the world." "Miss Margie." The monster said it like a lullaby. That night, she made me take my pills early. The water tasted slightly bitter, not quite right. I pretended to swallow, pressing the pill under my tongue until she left the room. Then I spat it into a tissue. Later, I checked the bottle. Half the tablets looked identical, but a few were discolored, slightly off-white. I didn't know what she'd added, but I knew enough to be terrified. By dawn, my plan was set. I dressed slowly, putting on my oldest sweater, the one Frank used to call my armor. I tucked the flash drive into my pocket and waited until Ivy began her morning routine. She always went live after breakfast, pretending it was just daily check-ins. When she started recording, I sat at the table, hands folded neatly in my lap. "Good morning, Miss Margie," she said cheerfully to the camera. "Tell everyone how you're feeling today." I smiled. "I feel grateful," I said softly. "Grateful that I've learned what love really looks like." Her brows lifted, sensing something off. "Oh? That's wonderful." "Yes," I continued, voice trembling just enough. "Love isn't smiling while someone's falling apart. It's not filming their pain. It's stopping it." Her face paled. "What are you talking about?" I looked straight into her camera. "They should know what you've done, Ivy. Every lie, every video, every pill." Her eyes widened, her smile frozen. She lunged for the phone, but I moved faster than she expected. Age makes you slow, but fury can make you quick. I knocked the phone to the floor. It landed camera up, still recording, capturing her face as she screamed, "Turn it off!" I didn't. I stood up, voice shaking but clear. "You said people love me, Ivy. Let them see the truth." For a moment we stood there, two women, one young and ruthless, the other old and broken but suddenly free. She ended the stream, her fingers trembling. "You've ruined everything," she hissed. "No," I said quietly. "You did that yourself." She stormed off, slamming her door. I sat down, breathing hard, every nerve buzzing. I knew she wouldn't leave it at that. She'd try to twist it, erase it, make me look insane again. But the footage was already online. People had seen. Even if only for a moment, they'd seen who she really was. That night, I hid the flash drive in my old music box, the one Frank had given me on our anniversary. I locked it tight. Tomorrow, I'd give it to Clara. If Ivy didn't stop me first. The next morning was unnervingly calm. The air hung heavy, thick, with a silence that felt staged, like the pause before a storm finally hits. Ivy moved around the kitchen, humming as if nothing had happened the day before. But her eyes avoided mine, and every movement of hers carried that tight, restrained energy of someone waiting for an opportunity to strike back. I sat quietly at the table, watching her stir oatmeal. Her hands were steady, too steady, the way a liar's often are when they've practiced pretending. She placed the bowl in front of me, smiling faintly. "Eat, Miss Margie. You didn't sleep well last night, did you?" I looked down at the spoon. The oatmeal glistened slightly thicker than usual, and the smell was off. Sweet, but metallic. My heart thudded. I'd seen that look before, years ago when my neighbor's cat had died after licking spilled antifreeze in the garage. A sweetness that hides something sinister. I smiled softly. "You're too kind to me, Ivy," I said, stirring the oatmeal with the spoon but not eating. "Always watching over me." Her lips curved faintly. "Of course. It's my job." I pushed the bowl away gently. "Can we sit for a moment? I'd like to talk." She hesitated, then sat across from me. I could see her scanning my face, searching for signs of confusion, fragility, anything she could use later. "I watched your videos," I said quietly. Her smile faltered. "I told you, Miss Margie, they were to spread awareness. I saw the one you called Finale Idea." The color drained from her face. Her lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. For a moment, the young caretaker's polished mask cracked, revealing the greed and fear beneath. "I know about the emails," I continued. "The sponsors, Darren, the plan to end me." My voice shook on that last word, but I didn't stop. "You were going to film my death, weren't you? A tragic ending to make your audience cry." She exhaled sharply, leaning forward. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," I said, cutting her off. "You thought no one would believe me. An old woman, a trembling widow. You thought you could play God with my life because you owned the story." For a long moment we just stared at each other. Then, suddenly, she smiled. That same calm, terrifying smile I'd seen when she first arrived. "And what will you do, Miss Margie? Call the police? Show them your knitting basket full of fairy tales?" My fingers tightened around my cane. "No," I said softly. "I already showed the truth to someone who will." Her smile faltered again. "What?" I lied so smoothly I almost believed it myself. "Clara has everything now. Every file, every message. She knows." I saw the fear flash across her eyes, quick and sharp. She stood abruptly. "You shouldn't have done that." She walked out of the kitchen. I heard her footsteps moving fast, then her door slamming shut. I waited, breath shallow, counting the seconds. Then the sound of drawers opening, things being thrown, rustling. She was looking for the flash drive. The music box was too old, too unassuming, tucked deep in my dresser. But then the noise stopped. Silence, a heavy, stretching kind of silence that made the back of my neck prickle. I gripped my cane and rose from the chair, inching toward the hallway. The sound of footsteps returned slow, deliberate. Ivy appeared, holding the music box in her hands. My heart nearly stopped. "I found this," she said, voice quiet but trembling with rage. "You shouldn't have gone through my things, Miss Margie. You've made everything harder than it needed to be." I froze. "Put that down," I whispered. She stepped closer. "You think you're clever, don't you? You think you can ruin me? That video yesterday, do you know how fast I deleted it? No one saw. No one cares. I control what they see." Her hand gripped the box tighter, knuckles whitening. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. "Ivy," I said softly, "you don't have to do this." "Oh, but I do." She took another step. "You could have been famous, Miss Margie. You already are. You just don't know it. And now you want to take it all away from me." She reached for me, but I swung my cane not hard, but enough to make her stumble backward, hitting the edge of the counter. The music box slipped from her hand, crashing to the floor. It burst open, scattering the flash drive and the tiny ballerina that had twirled to Frank's favorite tune. I lunged forward, grabbing the drive, clutching it tight. Ivy's face twisted, wild now, no sweetness, no calm. "Give it to me!" she screamed, her voice breaking. "No!" For a second, we wrestled an absurd scene, old bones against youth and fury. Then, a miracle, a knock at the door. "Miss Marjorie? It's Officer Haynes. Your niece asked me to check on you." I froze. Ivy's eyes went wide. Before she could react, I shouted, "In here! Please help!" The officer's voice called again, louder this time. "Is everything all right?" Ivy hissed, under her breath, grabbed her bag, and bolted toward the back door. She stopped just long enough to glare at me. "You ruined me," she spat. "You'll regret this." Then she was gone. When the officer entered, I was trembling so hard I could barely speak. He helped me sit down, his eyes scanning the broken box, the scattered mess, the open laptop still glowing faintly on the counter. I have proof," I whispered, handing him the flash drive. "She was filming me. Everything. Please. You have to believe me." He looked me in the eye, nodding. "We'll look into it, ma'am." "You did the right thing." He called for backup. Within hours, they had tracked Ivy's car through local cameras. By nightfall, she was in custody. Clara arrived soon after, pale and shaken. When I told her everything, her tears wouldn't stop. "I didn't know," she kept saying. "I thought she was helping you. I watched those videos, Aunt Marjorie. I believed every word." I reached for her hand. "That's what she wanted, darling, to make everyone believe." The police took my statement well into the night. When they left, the house finally felt still again, quiet in a way that didn't hurt anymore. I looked at the music box, cracked but still intact, its tiny ballerina frozen mid-spin. I wound it gently, letting the faint melody play through the silence. For the first time in months, I felt safe, or so I thought, because as I sat there, the faint buzz of my phone on the table made my blood run cold. I picked it up, and there it was, a message from an unknown number. "You may have stopped one show, Miss Margie, but they still want the finale," and attached to it a screenshot of my front porch, taken just minutes ago. The message glowed on my phone screen, and my heart nearly stopped. That photo, my front porch, my doormat, my rose bush had been taken from just outside my house, moments ago. My first instinct was to run to the window, but I froze halfway there. What if they were still out there, watching, waiting for me to move? I locked my phone with shaking fingers and switched off every light in the room. The silence pressed against me like a living thing. Outside, a faint creak wood under a slow step made the hair on my arms rise. I clutched my cane like a weapon. For hours, I sat motionless in my armchair, the music box still open on the table beside me, its broken ballerina glinting in the dark. Somewhere beyond the walls, an engine started and faded into the distance. Only then did I allow myself to breathe again. When dawn finally came, I called Officer Haynes. My voice trembled, but I managed to explain about the message and the photo. He promised to send a patrol car. "Keep your doors locked, ma'am. Ivy's in custody, but maybe someone else has access to her files," he said. That sentence chilled me to the core. Someone else. I'd thought Ivy was a lone predator, a twisted young woman feeding her fame off my misery. But now I realized she wasn't alone. The emails, the sponsorships, the Darren she mentioned, they were part of something bigger, maybe even a network. The officers came and installed a camera at my porch. They said it was precautionary. I nodded, but deep inside I wondered if it was another eye watching me, another lens capturing the last pieces of my life. Clara insisted on staying the night. She sat beside me, holding my hand like a frightened child instead of my grown niece. "I can't believe she'd do this," she whispered, "and that there were others watching. It feels like your grief was stolen." I smiled weakly. "They didn't steal it, dear. They just tried to sell it." That night we both tried to sleep, but the house was restless. The old pipes groaned. The floor creaked under the wind. At one point, I woke to the faint sound of my front gate opening. Clara was still asleep beside me on the couch, so I crept to the window. Nothing. Just darkness and the faint glimmer of the patrol car's headlights down the street. I went back to bed, but when morning came, there was something on the porch, a white envelope taped to the door. No address, no stamp, just my name, written in neat, deliberate handwriting. Inside was a single piece of paper, a still photo printed from one of Ivy's videos, me in my armchair, crying, holding Frank's picture. Underneath it, scrawled in blue ink, "She might be gone, but the audience isn't." I dropped the note, my fingers trembling so badly it fluttered to the floor. Clara saw my face and rushed over. "What is it?" I handed it to her, and she gasped. "We have to tell the police." We did. They came again, took the note, promised to check the prints, to trace the message, but I could tell from their faces they didn't expect much. Whoever had done this was careful, deliberate, professional. That evening, after the officers left, I sat alone in my room, staring at the blank walls. My reflection in the mirror looked foreign, hollow-eyed, older somehow. I thought of Ivy sitting behind her camera, whispering lies to her followers. And I thought of the thousands of strangers who watched me cry, not as a woman, but as entertainment. The line between pity and cruelty had disappeared long ago, and I had been the stage. Around midnight, Clara's phone buzzed. She frowned. "It's an unknown number," she said. "It says, 'Watch live.'" Before I could stop her, she clicked the link. The screen loaded to a live stream. The chat was already rolling, hundreds of comments flying by. The camera showed a dimly lit room filled with old equipment, tripods, soft lights, tangled wires. Then a familiar voice filled the speakers. "Good evening, everyone," said Darren. "You've all been waiting for an update. Miss Margie's story isn't over. Ivy might be detained, but the show must go on." My heart seized. Clara turned to me, horrified. "They're still using your name." I watched the screen, frozen. Behind Darren was a corkboard, plastered with screenshots from Ivy's videos. My face again and again, frozen, mid-tear, mid-sob, mid-collapse. He continued speaking, smooth and confident, like a show host. We'll be releasing never-before-seen footage. The fans deserve closure. After all, she was everyone's favorite grandmother. My hands clenched into fists. "Turn it off," I whispered. "Turn it off, Clara." But she didn't. She was staring at the chat comments, scrolling like wildfire. "Can't wait." She was so genuine. "Is she dead yet?" Clara slammed the phone shut, her face pale as paper. "They're monsters," she whispered. "Absolute monsters." I nodded slowly. "They think they own my pain. But they don't know me, not really. That night, I made my decision. I wasn't going to hide anymore. The next morning, I called a journalist. Her name was Lydia Hart, a local reporter who had once written about elder abuse and online exploitation. She listened quietly as I told her everything, from Ivy's arrival to the emails and the network. When I finished, there was silence on the other end. "Finally," she said, "I believe you, Mrs. Bennet, but you have to be sure you want this to go public. Once I publish your story, the world will know your face." I laughed softly. "They already do. At least this time they'll know my truth." Lydia came to see me that afternoon. She recorded my testimony, took photos of the broken cameras, the hidden devices the police had missed, and the threatening notes. She promised to cross-check Ivy's sponsors and track down Darren's real identity. As she left, she squeezed my hand. "You're brave," she said. "They thought they could silence you. They won't." That evening, I sat by the window, watching the sunset bleed across the sky. The light turned everything gold, warm, forgiving, almost peaceful. For a moment, I felt like Frank was sitting beside me again, his hand resting gently over mine. "Almost over," I whispered. But that peace didn't last long. Just before midnight, the phone rang. Not my cell phone, my landline, the one no one had called in years. I picked it up slowly. Static hummed, and then a voice familiar, low and trembling with rage. "I told you the finale was coming, Miss Margie." My breath caught. "Ivy?" A cold laugh crackled through the receiver. "Not quite. But you'll see me soon." The line went dead. The hum of silence filled the house again, heavy and suffocating. I turned toward the window and froze. Outside, at the edge of my yard, stood a figure, just barely visible in the glow of the porch light, holding something small and glowing in their hand. A camera. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The figure outside didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there in the half-light, holding that small, glowing device aimed straight at my window. I could feel its cold gaze even through the glass. My knees weakened, but I refused to look away. Not this time. I'd spent months being someone's prey, someone's showpiece, someone's story. Not anymore. I reached for my phone, dialed Officer Haynes with trembling fingers and whispered, "He's back. There's someone in the yard. Filming." "Stay inside," he said. "We're on our way." I hung up and turned off every light in the house, plunging the rooms into darkness. The faint beam from the porch barely outlined the intruder now, but I could still make out the shape, a tall man, hood pulled low, camera raised. Then the click, a faint mechanical sound. He was taking pictures. I pressed myself against the wall, heart hammering, forcing my thoughts to slow. I remembered something Frank once told me, long ago when a raccoon kept breaking into the shed. Fear only wins if you let it stay quiet. Make noise, Margie. Loud noise. So I did. I grabbed my old brass bell from the hallway, the one I used to ring for dinner when Frank's hearing started to go, and I rang it. Hard. The sound echoed through the night, sharp and startling. The figure froze. For 1 second, the light from his device flashed across his face. It wasn't Darren. It wasn't a stranger. It was Ivy. Her hair was shorter now, uneven, her face gaunt and pale. But it was her. Her eyes locked on mine through the window, wide, manic, desperate. Before I could react, she bolted toward the back door. The lock rattled violently. "You ruined me!" she screamed from the porch. "They turned on me. They said I staged it wrong. You made them hate me." I backed away, clutching the bell. "Leave, Ivy. The police are coming." She pounded the door again, her voice cracking. "You don't get it. I made you famous. You belong to me now. You were my masterpiece." "Your masterpiece?" I whispered, shaking. "You destroyed me." The door shuddered under her blows. Then, mercifully, sirens wailed in the distance. She froze again, eyes darting, wild. For a moment, she looked less like a predator and more like a lost child, terrified, cornered, unraveling. Then she turned and ran into the darkness. By the time the officers arrived, she was gone. But her camera wasn't. It lay on the porch steps, still recording. Officer Haynes picked it up carefully, and when he replayed the last few seconds, my heart ached. There I was, framed in the window, ringing my bell, Ivy's voice off-screen, shrill, breaking apart, then the sound of her sobbing before she ran. "Looks like you got the final word," Haynes said quietly. "They found her the next morning. She'd crashed her car in the old quarry road, no one else hurt, but the impact killed her instantly. In the wreckage, they found more hard drives, memory cards, even notebooks full of scripts and dialogue. She had planned everything, every reaction, every episode title, every emotional arc. It was all there, mapped out like a twisted season of television. The police confirmed Darren was real, to a content broker running several viral reality channels. He vanished once Ivy was arrested. They say he's still out there, hiding behind different usernames, selling other people's tragedies to an audience that doesn't ask where the pain comes from. Lydia, the journalist, published my story 2 weeks later. The headline read, "The Woman Who Fought Back. How a Caretaker Turned an Old Widow's Life into Viral Fiction. It Spread Like Wildfire. For the first time, the world saw me not as Miss Margie, the grieving widow, but as a person, a survivor." The videos were removed, sponsors pulled out, authorities opened an investigation into online exploitation networks. It didn't bring Frank back. It didn't erase what they'd done, but it meant something. In the weeks that followed, the house grew quieter, not empty, just peaceful. The cameras were gone, the lights normal again, but sometimes, at night, I'd wake to the faint phantom sound of a shutter clicking, and I'd sit up, heart pounding, before reminding myself, "You're safe now." Clara visits almost every day. She brings flowers, groceries, and that guilty smile she can't seem to shake. "You were right," she said once, her eyes glistening. "I should have seen it. I should have believed you sooner." I reached for her hand. "You believe me now. That's enough." One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the walls in gold, I sat by the window with the old music box. The ballerina no longer twirled, but the melody still worked a soft, trembling tune that Frank used to hum while washing dishes. I turned the crank and whispered, "We did it, love. It's over." But as the song played, I noticed something strange. Outside, across the street, a car idled. Not a police car, just an ordinary sedan. Its windshield glinted faintly in the fading light. For a moment, I thought I saw a shadow move inside someone lifting a phone. I blinked, and the car drove away. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was just a passerby. Or maybe the audience really never leaves. Lydia called later that night. "The story's everywhere," she said. "People are outraged, but they're also fascinated. They want interviews, podcasts, documentaries." I sighed softly. "So it begins again." "No," she said gently. "This time you're the one telling it." After we hung up, I sat in the quiet. I thought of Ivy, how obsession had eaten her alive, how she mistook control for love. And I thought of the thousands who watched, unaware they were feeding something monstrous. I walked to the window one last time, opened it wide, and let the cool night air in. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a prisoner in my own story. I looked out at the stars, whispering to Frank, "If they want a finale, they can have one." Then I closed the curtain, turned off the light, and left the camera on the table facing me. I pressed record myself. "My name is Marjorie Bennett," I said softly, meeting the lens head on. "And this time, the story is mine." I smiled, faint but steady, as the music box played its last trembling notes in the background. Fade to black.